welcome into the latest Soccer Over There, live from the Brewhouse Cafe in Little 5 Points. It sounds a little different right now because there's kind of a big event going on at the moment. The Atlanta Braves are trying to hold on and win their National League Division Series against the St. Louis Cardinals. It's in the top of the 8th, so we are at the Brewhouse Cafe watching the game, but also going to talk some soccer from all over the world. Nick Alifi's stuck in traffic.
Yes.
There is some kind of a shutdown on I-285 is what I've been told. A stall on I-285. Even better. So he will be here shortly. So while Nick is away, we're going to talk about the Premier League. And what country, John?
Oh.
No, you always say it.
What?
England.
Oh, no, Nick says England.
Well, you should say it when he's not here.
Okay, well then England.
All right, we've got so much to get into from the Premier League because it feels like that's where all the storylines are this time around. Manchester United and Tottenham.
Cool.
Both having some issues. Manchester City, they had a loss. It wasn't good. And Liverpool just keeps on Liverpooling around.
Yes.
They just keep doing their thing. Let's start with probably the easiest one when it comes to Liverpool. Undefeated, perfect record so far. How long does that last?
Ooh. I'm trying to think what the record is off the top of my head for a run for... See, now you've got me schedule fishing, trying to figure out something. My guess is, without looking at the schedule, flying blind, my guess is it's probably going to be somewhere in the Christmas crunch. That would be my guess as to when something happens. It's going to be right after a tough Champions League match on a quick turnaround, or it's going to be in the Christmas crunch, and that would be the only two opportunities before the new year.
So wait a minute. So you're going to tell me that Liverpool is going to remain perfect until Christmas?
I said, without looking at the schedule, considering what...
No, I'm not asking for specifics. You're getting caught up.
You've got me going into the schedule here.
John. You're getting caught up in semantics. I want to know this. Is Liverpool going to be the Invincibles of Arsenal? Are they going to do that? Are they that good?
Well, I think that let's put it this way. I think that the Premier League on the whole isn't that great.
Well, that's a change.
You have Liverpool, Manchester City, and then you've got the rest of the Pick Six. Then you've got the mid-table. Then you've got everybody else.
So there's that much of a gap between
right
Liverpool
now,
and Manchester City.
I mean, short of maybe the Manchester City match, November the 10th. And that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at Manchester City, November 10, and that's coming off of group stage 5 days before playing Genk. And I know that's a bit of a reach, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Genk, November 5th. You come back 5 days later to take on Manchester City. Then you have Crystal Palace, Napoli, Brighton, Everton, Bournemouth, Red Bulls, Watford, World Cup, West Ham, which got pushed back, Leicester at Christmas Crunch, Wolves, and then Sheffield United gets you to New Year's Day. You tell me where the gap in that is.
They have some tricky matches with two teams that are very desperate that are their next two league matches. They go to Manchester United. They host Tottenham. So I see you shaking your head. Just no hope. Just no chance. So Liverpool's
just
perfect.
Manchester United right now. I don't think
Liverpool's
so.
just perfect.
Tottenham for me has just, after what happened Champions League and what happened this past weekend against Brighton, you're gonna. I want to see what Tottenham team shows up.
It's a valid question.
And at this point, I don't know. Are they completely and totally just like, screw it, and Pochettino is headed to Real Madrid or wherever, since Daniel Levy has decided, and we got into the discussion this morning about Christian Eriksen / Alderweireld / Vertonghen. I have too many questions around Tottenham right now. I have too many questions with Manchester City right now. Arsenal, maybe?
What are your questions around Manchester City right now? Now, I know they lost the game.
Defense. I think the center back pairing with Otamendi and Fernandinho, that's pretty rough. And I think that's where Pep Guardiola is going to go in the transfer window. He's going to fix the back because a lot of folks were concerned about John Stones and Kyle Walker and that whole.
Well, it's the injury to Laporte. Laporte has changed everything because you don't have the depth.
So Laporte's done for the season.
No.
I thought he was done for the year.
No. He's done till the second half. He's going to be back.
Okay. But I still think that they're going to be shopping for defense, if not center backs.
I think that's valid.
In the January window. So scoring for me is not going to be an issue. Defense for me is going to be an issue. And that's just how I'm going to look at it from them until further notice.
But here's the reason why I'm not with you on Liverpool's just untouchable, and they're not going to lose until Christmas. Barely Leicester City. Barely.
Yeah, I know that Brendan Rodgers is, you can take a lot from it. I know that he thought, and that penalty, the call on the.
What do you think?
It was soft for the moment.
But is it a penalty?
I know, but for the moment, do you really want to call something like that in the moment?
He did.
I know.
Was he wrong?
I thought so. Because for me, the way that, and we were going back and forth in our messaging and going to our conversations about it, I thought that Mane's reaction was delayed in falling. I thought that he waited a couple of steps and then fell. So that's why I thought the call was soft, and I didn't think that it was the right call.
But that's the tricky thing about this is it's not absolutely fabricated. It's not a situation where there was no contact. There was contact.
Right.
There was what you could call a foul. It's a judgment call. I've seen people talk about VAR with this, and it has nothing to do with VAR.
No.
Because there's nothing to overturn. It's a situation where it's down to the referee's judgment. VAR's not going to fix that. It's one that could get called a lot. It's one that gets called sometimes. It's not consistently called. That's the frustration with it.
Yeah.
And you should not, by the book, you should not call the game differently in the 90th minute versus the 45th versus the first.
Correct.
Is that going to be a foul in most parts of the field? Probably.
Yeah.
It's probably more of a foul at midfield than it is where it was called here. I don't love the call, don't get me wrong. But I don't think you can, and I've seen some of this, I don't think you can say it's not a penalty.
Okay.
There's contact. There's contact.
But I'm focused, like I said, I'm focused more on Mane continuing his action.
Sure.
And then taking several steps and then going down. If it was like, if I kick you, let's just say I kick you right now, and you keep walking and then you grab your ankle. Yeah, I know I'm taking this to a bit of an extreme.
Okay.
But if I kick you well enough where you immediately go down in the area, then to me, I'm like, all right.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm cool.
That's easy. Those are easy calls.
Right. But for me to kick you, then you keep going on offense. You keep trying to think about how you're going to get the ball into the net. And then
it wasn't that long.
Then after 2 steps or 2 or 3 steps after contact is made and you've progressed away from the 2 defenders, you've cleared the defenders, you're working your way back toward the middle. And then you go down. Mane, I give him credit for taking advantage of the situation and understanding its context. It's like, okay, there's been contact, regardless of what it meant to his ankles. What I'm saying is that he understood what was going on, he understood the place, he understood what was going down, took full advantage of it, got the penalty call, and it happened. I was not a fan of the call because of his continuous action as he was going forward. That's my biggest thing on the whole deal.
Yeah, that's fine, but let me ask you this. if you go in studs up high at somebody's knee and you don't touch them, should you be red carded?
And you don't touch them?
Yeah. The answer is yes, by the way.
Okay.
So if I take a swing at you and I miss, I shouldn't be red carded.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
I see your point. Okay.
So if he commits a foul, he commits a foul, regardless of the reaction, regardless of what happens to the player. It's a judgment call. And for all of the replays, for all of the technology, these are the moments why humans make these decisions.
Right.
Because referees are going to see it different every time. There's not a right answer here, I don't think. And that's maybe been some of the frustration about the arguments about it. There's not a right or wrong answer. It's a judgment call.
And then with everybody talking about VAR, you're taking the human element out of the discussion.
VAR doesn't come into play.
That's what I'm saying is that everybody's locked into that whole VAR idea, but there are times where it's not involved. It has no bearing on the decision.
There's a great piece over at 442 about this because it sounds like the same complaints that everybody had about VAR before it came in. It's going to re-referee everything. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. Now they want that.
Of course.
Because it's what happened here.
Yeah.
When VAR sets the high bar in how to get involved and where to get involved, and they say we're not going to get involved in re-refereeing the game, everybody's like, yeah, that sounds great. Until there's a call they don't like.
moment when they want to re-referee.
Then they want to re-referee it.
Yeah.
But you can't. It's a judgment call by the referee. It is what it is. Back to the original point, Liverpool needed that to get past Leicester to win.
No doubt.
1-0 win at Sheffield United. 2-1 win at Chelsea. They're not blowing people out.
No.
So that's why I think it's presumptuous to say that they will be undefeated until Christmas.
Like I said, my two markers, kind of, sort of, Halloween against Arsenal in League Cup, which really
That's the League Cup.
count.
That's not. I think at Old Trafford is going to be trickier than you think. If Sheffield United was a 1-0 game, I don't think Manchester United's going to roll over and die here. Are they a better team? No, they're not.
No.
But they're at home and they're desperate. And that's why, that's all I'm trying to say. Liverpool is not PSG in France.
No, not at all.
But when you say they're going to go undefeated until Christmas, that's the impression. I think the Premier League is a better league than that. I think the Premier League has challenges like going to Aston Villa, like hosting Tottenham, hosting Manchester City. There's challenges that Liverpool could slip up on. I don't think they're perfect.
No.
They didn't look perfect against Red Bull Salzburg.
No.
That's the whole point.
No.
I don't think they're going to be perfect until that point. But what they have right now, because of Manchester City's slip-ups, is they have an 8-point cushion.
And they did last year too, but then there was the issues that they ended up with last year. They stumbled and Manchester City came through, but that was later in the year.
There are people who are already trying to say that they are the Premier League champions.
No.
That's why I'm pushing back on they're going to be perfect until Christmas. That's the whole thing. This league is difficult. I think you have more difficulties in this league than in others. I think that's the whole selling point of the Premier League. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be very, very interesting. I don't think they're perfect. I think they're top of the table by Christmas.
No question.
But let's talk about Manchester City. Let's talk about that side of it. Not a good weekend.
No.
Not a narrow loss, a 2-0 loss to Wolves. 2 late goals from Traoré, but still, it's a 2-0 loss to a team that you only put 2 shots on target. You had all the possession, you played your game, 2 shots on target, they get 2 shots on target, they win 2-0.
And they got those 2 opportunities going back in transition as Manchester City was trying to get the goal scored, and Adama Traoré.
But that's the thing is when you're not getting through and you're a Manchester City, you have to commit numbers for it. You have to go for the win because 8-point cushion.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit back and say, well, we'll take the draw. That's just what the draw is today.
Yeah.
Liverpool's putting that pressure on, and they're causing these things by continually winning. That's good. But Manchester City, I don't think there's like anything broken. I think people are overreacting. But now they've got a lot to make up. It's not going to be easy for them, and we've talked about it all season. The pressure of Champions League is not going to go away for them either.
And I still think that with the injuries, the Otamendi injury, the Laporte injury,
Yeah.
he's going to go shopping, and he's going to try to shore things up after Christmas crunch in the January window. So that's what I'm looking at for Manchester City. But no, this race is not over. I don't care what anybody says. This is not a done race at all.
Well, now that we get into the two dumpster fires, it's time to bring Nick Alifi into the mix. Did you see a dumpster fire on the way over, Nick?
I saw many dumpster fires on the way over. Jason, I appreciate you asking that question. The main dumpster fire that I'm seeing is currently on the shirt that I'm wearing, which is
Milan.
Yeah.
We get there. It's on the
We're
list.
going to get there. It's on the list. Don't worry. But yeah, there are a lot of stalled cars, 285, Atlanta being the wonderful traffic mecca that it is.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So, yeah, I'm here. Are we doing a show tonight?
We are.
Is that
we're
what
doing
we're
a show
doing?
right now?
Yeah, we're talking about your favorite mispronounced malaprop country right now and what's going on in that particular league.
Really? Are we talking about England?
See,
Yeah.
I told you. He's the one who's supposed to say it.
Yeah, but you can still say it when he's not here. You have to fill in. You have to
All
pick
right.
up a teammate who's running late.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So a lot of wonderful dumpster fires this weekend. Have we talked about Manchester United yet?
Well, that's the question: is what's the bigger dumpster fire, Manchester United or Tottenham?
Ooh.
I'm going to say Manchester United because Spurs, I think, can be solved with new leadership.
Well, good luck on that.
Yeah, good luck on it. But
Same with Manchester United and Ed Woodward. Good luck on that.
no, but the problem is there has been a systemic leadership issue at Manchester United for so long that the foundation is now cracked. And with Spurs, I think that you could bring in new leadership and open the pocketbook a little bit, and I think you could have some more success there. But I don't think that's the case for Manchester United because Ed Woodward, we all know, believes in the best business solution for Manchester United. That doesn't necessarily mean the best on-field solution. So when we look at it from that point of view, there are so many things that are wrong with Manchester United right now. You would literally have to blow that whole team up to get them right. Because they spent what? How much? $1 billion? $500 million?
Here's where I'm at with Manchester United at this point. I'm really subscribing to the theory that this is going to be a process. And I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had a good quote after the match. He said it will take however long it will have to take. It's a journey we've started on, and the culture is getting there. We've come together and discussed the direction we're going. If you only work on sunny days, you'll never get to your destination. I love that line, first off. That's a really good line.
Yeah.
But they've added, finally, I think, some young players. I think they're relying on a lot of young players.
Right.
They have screwed up their transfer windows so many times.
Yeah.
And now they got to clean it up.
Fred.
I don't think it matters who's in charge. I think it could be Ole. I think it could be Jose. I think it could be Van Gaal. I think it could be all of them by committee. It's not going to matter. They don't have the talent.
No.
They're not a top 16 talent-wise. So it's going to take them the winter window. It's going to take them next summer to be a team that can get back into the European conversation.
How many windows do you think Man United is away from getting it right? Like let's say in this magical land of make-believe.
Competing for fourth?
Competing for fourth.
I think competing for fourth is where they would need to get back to. Minimum two. I mean, you're not doing it this year. You're not doing it this year. If you take advantage of your winter window and summer next year, you could be in that conversation just because I think it's kind of wide open. Not that I think Manchester United's going to be competing for a title. I'm talking about competing for fourth.
I think their days of being competitive in a title race are done for the foreseeable future.
Lots of windows. I mean, you're going to have a lot of things fall your way.
Well, there's a whole business side of it that has to change for them. We're not just talking about hey, bring in the right players for 2 windows, and now you're going to be consistent, top 1, top 2 in the Prem. That's not the case. Liverpool and Manchester City, and yes, I did watch this weekend. I watched what happened with City. In my opinion, I don't believe that there's a business case that can be made for Man United right now that puts them in a position to be in the title picture in the next 4 to 5 years.
I think the Glazers and Ed Woodward have to be out of that whole dynamic for anything to change for Manchester United.
The Glazers can sit in the background. They're not the issue at this point. I really think everybody pointing at them, they're not making bad signings. They're not making bad sales. Ed Woodward needs to go.
Yeah.
Should have gone a long time ago.
Correct.
That's the number one issue from a business perspective. The Glazers operating the club to make money, duh. That's what everybody does. Maybe they're a little more focused on that side than getting rid of Ed Woodward and actually fixing the soccer side.
Right. Well, it's an economic engine. Anything with Man United is an economic engine. Right? You could have T-shirts, shoes, beach balls, anything out there with Man United branding, you're making money off it. You're getting a percentage of the cut.
Right. But over time, if you're not winning,
then that brand fizzles.
100%. But they have not seen that to this point.
A little. It's starting.
But for them, I think it's still a blip. It's a minor blip on the radar.
It could be.
Now, if you get a few more years of this mess,
yes,
then at what point do the Glazers say, you know what? Maybe it's time for us to leave while the seat's warm, not
while we can
hot.
Still make money on a sale.
Yeah, where we still have that return on investment.
The actual sale price, is there anybody who could buy this club?
$37 gajillion.
I don't think anybody's buying it.
No.
Nobody has that money.
Nobody has that money.
So
unless you're talking sheikhs and it comes from the Middle East again, or Chinese investment.
And as rough as the reaction was to the Glazers, what do you think that reaction's going to be for Manchester United fans?
But at some point, as a fan base, Milan is owned by a vulture hedge fund. I know that. Anybody who's a fan of that team knows that. But at some point, you have to accept your reality that a club gets too big to fail, right? We're too big to fail.
So are you saying Manchester United is soccer's Enron?
Yeah.
No, that's overreaction Monday right there.
That's overreaction Monday. The brand is right now. You are only thriving on a name at the moment. You are thriving on your banner at the moment. That's it. There is no product on the field.
Let's put this in proper context. We're not talking about Watford, Aston Villa, Bolton. We're not talking about that.
What's the difference?
There's a difference.
A decimal place?
When was the last time Watford won Europa League even? There's a difference.
The difference, because you are only as different as the results on the field suggest you are.
You're thinking very short term, though. Very, very short term.
You have to. You have to think very short
No,
term.
you can't. I think you can't think that short term.
I think you have to, because we can talk about 5-year plans, 10-year plans, everything we want for Man United. We could talk about that, and you are right to do so. But there are fires that have to be put out right now.
Oh, no, that's for sure. No, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and you have to, I think for Milan, we'll compare apples to apples right now. Because it's 2 former giants who are in very dire straits at the moment. Milan does not need to buy anyone else right now. They need to just get stable, right? They need to stop the bleeding. Because the brand is already shattered. The brand is washed.
That's where Manchester United doesn't want to get.
Exactly. So you do need to invest still in players in order to put the fires out. You have to do that.
Yeah.
But you have to do that to sustain your name. Because if you have another year, 2 years, 3 years of current results, and that brand starts fading, Newcastle used to be a brand. Newcastle was a brand.
Yeah, not this kind of brand, but yeah.
You had St. James Park packed out.
Yeah.
I mean, people used to walk around Georgia before the Prim was everywhere wearing Newcastle shirts. They were a brand. They were no name, and now they're nothing. You are not that far away from failure. If you don't properly invest now, Ed Woodward, get your act together. If you don't,
or get out the door.
If you don't start making changes now and put the fires out now, then you don't get the return on investment when it comes time to sell. But the club is so massive right now that if you buy it right now as is, are you getting a return on investment in what time period? 5 years, 10 years? If you buy the club today from the Glazers.
Well, they're making money, first off.
They're making money.
Yeah. The club's making money.
But is it diminishing? Or
yes, it is diminishing.
Okay.
No, let's clean it up a little bit, because I think there's multiple issues. The brand, still strong. The brand, you get the product on the field right, the brand will be fine, everything's fine. They're still making money. They're still making as much money as any club in the world.
Right.
They're still one of the most valuable clubs in the world.
Right.
But if the crappy soccer product continues, because that's what it is right now.
Yeah.
For the Manchester United brand, it's a crappy soccer product. For somebody else, it might be great. Until you fix that, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And I feel like, though, like you talked about, Milan doesn't need to go out and buy stuff. They need to fix things right now. I think Manchester United is not to that point. This window, they brought in some good young players.
Yeah.
But they have no stable senior core.
Right.
And that's what they're going to have to address in the winter and next summer. Because those young guys have to have something around them to hold it together. Because you're getting results right now that a young team would get.
Look, the Redskins used to be a brand. The Oakland Raiders used to be a brand.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, you can fail.
Drop.
No, 100%. You can wreck the whole ship. Absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying.
But I think there's an overreaction to say that they are wrecked.
You are wrecked until proven otherwise.
No, there's a difference.
You are wrecked until you're proven otherwise.
Would you consider Spurs wrecking?
Spurs are in the ship is hitting the rocks. The ship is hitting the rocks.
You're getting the signal about the iceberg.
Yeah. Iceberg.
The iceberg is out there.
Right.
The iceberg's right ahead.
You know that. Now you got to find the thing and avoid it.
It's like, all right, so Victor Garber needs to figure out a way to make sure that the ship...
Well, you need to get rid of the moron who's driving the ship.
Yes.
Who has wasted so many windows and moves and watched this team just decline.
Yep.
You've got to stick with something. Like I've said before, I don't think it matters who's in charge right now managing. No. I don't think you put this on. It's not Solskjaer who is wrecking the thing.
No.
He doesn't have enough talent to work with.
No. Daniel James and Scott McTominay can only take you so far.
And those are nice pieces, and they need something around them.
Nice pieces.
But then the flip side is this, because people yell about you don't need guys like that. Good thing for the Braves happening right now.
Yeah, ground rule double.
People are saying that you don't need those guys. Now that's wrong too. You have to have a young core.
Yes.
If you just go get a bunch of old guys, you're going to get stuck like some teams that are fading.
Right.
You've got to do all of it. And right now, you don't have anyone with any plan. Like, if it's a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, you got no plan.
Didn't Solskjaer say it was going to be 3 years?
He's got to figure something out. It's going to take at least that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to take work. It's going to take the right kind of recruitment. It's going to take a little bit of luck, because it always does.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of things. They have a long way to go right now.
Yep.
And they've got to put in the work. But I think the yelling about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is misplaced.
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
No doubt.
And if they run him out of town, then you're then hastening hitting that iceberg, in my opinion.
Well, so you can yell and scream. You can say, oh, it's Woodward. Woodward bad. Woodward out. Okay, great. Why do you need Woodward out? Oh, horrible signings. He doesn't care about this. Only care about the profit margin. Okay, great. A loss happens. Fire Solskjaer. Why fire Solskjaer? He's not getting results. But you just said Woodward is making bad signings.
You're in the talent catch-22.
Exactly. Yeah. So I get it.
There's not an easy way out of it.
No, because let's say you fire Solskjaer. Let's throw it out there. You fire Solskjaer. Who are you going to bring in?
Exactly.
Give me a name. Don't be. And people say, well, college football fans, bring in anybody, man. I don't care. I'm sorry. Hold up. Say this name. I need this on the mic.
Whoa,
I can't
wow.
be the one to say it.
Wait a minute, that just took a turn I didn't expect.
I can't be the one to say it. Hold up.
United need to bring in Arsene Wenger.
How mind-blowing would that be?
That would be epic and a half.
The sound that you guys just heard across the digital airspace were the collective brains of every United fan spilling out.
Well, and every Arsenal fan, too.
I don't think it's a bad idea.
No, it's not a bad
I don't think
idea.
it's a bad idea. Because it's somebody who you could bring in who we know has the ability to get the job done. He'll at least keep you stable. But
all of those collective servers tables that you just heard, all the servers dishes
That's
you
right.
just heard crashing the second that Arsene Wenger's name just got mentioned.
I mean, look. It's a name, though. But tell me
Pedigree's
who you're
there.
bringing in.
Name is there.
Yeah. Because I haven't heard many people tell me who they would bring in instead.
No. I mean, you're
This is
more,
the one person who
in
said,
this day and age, you have more people telling you who they want out and not
Yes.
coming in with a replacement than anything else.
then you end up with Tennessee. Then you end up with chasing Phil Fulmer out, and then coach after coach after coach after coach after coach, and not getting any results, right? Let's chase out this guy. Let's chase out that guy. Okay, that's fine, but you better make sure that you have a capable manager who can get you to where you want to be. And you can't even tell me where you want to be. What is stability for Manchester United right now? Is it, you're at 12th now, is it 8th? Is that where you want to be? 6th?
Short term,
Top
you're
6.
looking at something like that, but long term, where you've got to be is you've got to be in the Champions League.
Champions League's a steroid shot. Champions League's a steroid shot. That
Yeah,
gives
but
quick capital to make
To
make
be that
transfers.
kind of club, to be what they've been, to sustain what they've been, you've got to be in the Champions League.
You've got to have that pedigree
got to
back
be.
into your rotation.
You're not getting there anytime soon.
You're not getting any anytime soon.
Well, but let's then flip it, because I think this is also a valid way of thinking about it. Liverpool's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
Manchester City's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
Who else has the other two spots on lock?
No one.
Well, keep in mind, after January, Chelsea can start spending again. And you're going to have
You're going to have all the young kids.
you're going to have young kids, and you're going to have 2 windows worth of cash sitting there.
I'm not talking about a good team. I'm talking about who else has those other two spots on
Chelsea will
lock.
have those
Liverpool's
spots
got
on
one on lock. City's got one on lock.
Chelsea will
two
have
spots up for grabs.
Chelsea will have. They're in 5th right now. After going through one window, they're going to have the second transfer ban window coming up, and they're doing that right now with limited resources
Yeah.
for them. I would say when they're able to spend money, Chelsea will have the 3rd spot on lock, which leaves us at 4. Spurs aren't doing anything right now.
Spurs have a lot of roster issues that they're going to have to address.
Yeah.
I mean, right now it's almost like the 4th horseman, that rotating
It's a crapshoot.
that rotating character.
Short of the big 2, no one's got it on lockdown. I
think Chelsea has the inside track, but I'm not all the way sold on Frank Lampard just yet.
No.
I'm not sold on Frank necessarily, but I will say that out of any of these other cast of characters, if you put a gun to my head
got
and
the
say
head start. That's fine.
who's your 3rd lock, that's my 3rd lock.
But
I
then
get
that
it.
4th spot, and that's what has to drive you if you're a Manchester United and a Tottenham with the decisions they have.
Right.
That the opportunity is there. if you're doing it
Leicester,
right.
Sakib has brought up Leicester, and I think they can be there. I think in a short term, I think in a year, they can pop up and grab it.
Right.
Yeah. And see, then that's where the question comes up is, all right, you go get it for a year. You go grab it. You get the big check. You get the money coming in.
Right.
Can you sustain it?
Right.
Liverpool and Manchester City have shown they can sustain it.
Well, yeah. I mean, Liverpool and Man City have the Scrooge McDuck money bin parked out back, and Liverpool has brains backing their transfers as well. So there's something to be said about intelligently spending your money.
But if you're Leicester, this is the first chance that Top has been in charge of all the purse strings, all the activity, bringing in talent, bringing in players. He's having to do this, taking over for his dad, but this is now Top, who is the eldest son, who's having to make the decisions. And so I think there's a lot of pressure, self-imposed probably more than not, on him to get it right. Is he going to throw everything behind what Brendan Rodgers wants him to do to continue to make the push to get into top 4, to get into top 6? I think so. I think that the son is going to make that push with Brendan Rodgers kind of steering him.
I think Brendan Rodgers is the right guy for Leicester. I could even see, just depending on what happens with Tottenham and Pochettino, it doesn't look like that marriage is going to last much longer.
No.
A guy like Rodgers could go into Tottenham if they really need to bring in a manager, I think. But Brendan Rodgers at Leicester right now is a really nice place for all parties involved over there because he's a capable manager. A lot of people like to give Luis Suarez all the credit for 13-14 for Liverpool, but Rodgers is the one that brought the best out of everyone on that team and changed the formations and made everything happen. I mean, you look at the other players. He got the most out of a Gerrard on his last legs. He got Sturridge was never that good again. You could blame injuries and stuff in his career, but he was never that good again than he was, under Brendan Rodgers. So, and you're seeing Jamie Vardy, what is he, 30, 32, 33? He's having a really good season. And one of the young players, Wilfred Ndidi, and everyone's coming through. I think he's the guy to take Leicester and try and cement them into that top 6, big 6, if there's ever a team that can break in. And you're seeing United, Arsenal faltering. Tottenham could go anyway. They could regroup and rebound. They've got all the talent. They've spent the money this year. But there's room to step up, and I think Leicester is a team to do.
And that's the thing, is that outside of the 2 teams that we said that have it on lock, this is an opportunity for a Wolves, for a Leicester, for those teams that have been right there on the edge to be a part of the discussion for the first time in a long time.
I agree. I just think that you're going to have a cast of characters, and out of those, who can be the bully, who can spend the cash and sustain. Its sustainability is really the question in my mind. I think one thing that works in Leicester City's favor is that there's no club in the top 6 that will have as little pressure on them as Leicester City, because those fans, if they're top 6, top 8, they are going to be elated. They're going to be thrilled. And if they're top 4, they're going to be over the moon. So I think that's one thing that works in Leicester City's favor. I don't think Crystal Palace's success is sustainable. I don't see them sitting in the top 6 for that long. Arsenal, I don't know. I just feel like the wheels are going to come off of Arsenal at any moment. That the defense is going to break. They're going to fall apart. I don't know if Unai Emery is the guy who can lead them to sustain success. I still think when the money starts flowing for Chelsea, it's a game changer, and they will spend, I think, to keep up with the Joneses at the top 2. But the top 2, hell, high water, death taxes, it's going to be Man City and Liverpool. Switch them however you like.
Yeah.
I think a team that can step up and who should have a little bit more pressure than Leicester is a West Ham. They've spent a lot of money over the years. They've got pedigree at manager. I mean, with Pellegrini at manager, and they spent a good bit of money. They've got really good talent. I mean, they've got Felipe Anderson.
Yeah, from Felipe, what we've seen from him.
He's a stud. He could be as good as any winger in the league if he keeps it up. And I think there should be more pressure on West Ham to finally step up, because they've been kind of just fluttering for so long.
I think that they got the pass early on because they're going into the new stadium. They're leaving all that behind. You're moving in. We've got to get adjusted to life in this new shiny place. And now that you've been there and you've gotten established, I think that the expectations are higher at West Ham.
I tell you one thing that is sustainable, and that's these wonderful holding midfielder appreciation society scarves that we have up here in the middle of the table. No matter where you are in this city or in life going forward, if you have one of these scarves, it signifies you as a member of upstanding status and a community of excellence that if you wish to be a part of, my friends, you need to come down here.
Listen to him with the excellent plug mid-show. Nicely done.
I'm telling you right now, Shakib has about 9,000 televisions up here at the brew house. He's got a power plant that they're having to build out back just to sustain all the wonderful entertainment options that you have. So come on out to the brew house. Wonderful menu and the scarves. I have the back. There you go. They're waiting for you.
Excellent
Scarf
sound
heads.
effect, by the way.
Yeah, scarf heads, come out and get this stuff, man. Make it happen. Okay, so if you are Man City right now, are you throwing in? I'm just ready. Are you throwing in the towel on trying to win the Prem right now? If it's there, great. But right now, full speed ahead on Champions League. If you have to make a choice.
I don't think they can.
No.
I don't think they can do that. They have to walk the tightrope with both. I think the Champions League has an extra bit of importance when it comes to Manchester City because they've never had it. I think the league has an extra bit of importance for Liverpool this year because it's been so long since they've had it. It's kind of funny how that's going to work out, where right now, okay, Liverpool looks like they're in a great spot in the league. And I want to get Sakib's answer to our question earlier about, are they going to be tested, this season? Are they going to be tested? Have they pulled away? Is it their league to lose at this point? But with City and Champions League, I just don't think they can afford to do that. And probably last year's record, last year's 8-point margin gives them the idea of, hey, it's not done.
There are certain things in sports that have been ruthlessly consistent until Atlanta United came along, the Atlanta sports curse, and Liverpool finding unique and inventive ways.
Ask Steven Gerrard.
Of slipping.
Uncalled for, sir.
And choking away chances to win the Prem. Sir, I put it to you. Give me a reason to believe that Liverpool is different this go-around, where they won't squander this lead.
I mean, there's several reasons to believe, and I got several thoughts about City and Liverpool and Champions League and Premier League and all that. But to answer the first question, it's not over by any means for Manchester City. They were 7 points behind in January of this year, I'll remind you, and they found a way to win the league by 1 point. So that's an 8-point difference they made up in half a season. Manchester City beat Watford 8-0. They're gonna be there at the end, unless Liverpool does the unprecedented and doesn't drop any points. And I don't think we're getting 114 points, as lovely as that would be. Obviously, City now have to beat Liverpool in one of the ties to be there, but you can't count them out. I still, as much as I love Liverpool Football Club, I think Manchester City is probably pound for pound the most talented team on the planet. They've got a starting 11 on their bench that could finish top 4 if they wanted to. And Pep is, interchangeable with the best coach in the world at any given time. So you can't count them out at all. As far as why to believe in Liverpool, we've got Jurgen Klopp. I mean, you've seen the steady rise from when he came into where we are now and the things he tried to bring to the club. You can't look at past things like the awful Gerrard moment and things like that. They're nice talking points, but they don't influence the future, I don't believe. And the evolution of the players, the smart players that we've brought in, we're built to sustain this. If we want to be a little negative, I think the worst thing that could happen would be an injury to Van Dijk. That would be a nightmare. I'd probably cry. I would cry a lot. But at the same time, you have to believe in a manager like Jurgen Klopp to be able to pull through this type of situation. Matip's gone out. Joe Gomez had played just an awful game last week, and Lovren stepped in after so long, and he was really good against Leicester. If you go back and look at his individual performance, it was very solid against the Leicester team that's proven they can be threatening. So it is this next man up mentality with Liverpool, and they will step up, and because they buy into what Jurgen Klopp is selling. So 8 points, 8 out of 8 wins to start the season. If you were a betting man, gun to your head, you'd say, yeah, I'll put money on Liverpool right now if you had to, all bias aside. I think everyone would do that. Although it might be sweeter to bet against them, the odds might be a little better right now. But there's every reason to believe they can and should pull this off. I don't buy the past failures and trauma.
That's a good way to put it.
But it's been a rough decade plus for Liverpool supporters, and this is, all the hard work, sticking with it from all aspects, paying off right now.
So if Liverpool wins the Prem, let's say lightning happens, meteor does not hit the earth, Liverpool wins, and you go out semifinals of Champions League. Is that what level of success would you put on this season if those are your results?
If Liverpool win the Prem and go out of the Champions League tomorrow, it will be a success. That said, to go back to an earlier point, it isn't enough for clubs at the level of Liverpool or Manchester City, who are trying to be among the biggest clubs in the world, to even entertain the discussion of one or the other. You play every game to win. You don't sacrifice any games. It's not proper. I never buy into that. There's a lot of discussions about, you'd rather not have Europa and finish 7th or whatever. I would always rather have Europa if I was in that position, and we were in that position several times. You want to play more games financially, for financial reasons, for the supporters, for everything. So you would never ask Barcelona or Madrid, one or the other. And obviously that's what Liverpool and Manchester City want to be. So I don't think it's fair to ask them that question either.
See, I'm Captain Match Fixer. I believe in better 2 wounded than 1 dead.
He's Captain Calciopoli.
Amen. Look, if you got the cash to pay off the center ref, maybe you go for it. All right. Look, there's nothing wrong, I believe, with occasionally saying, "Hey, look," kind of looking over to the other manager. Hey, we can, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hand across the chest, tap the forearm.
Wait a minute, what team do you support again?
That's immaterial at the moment.
It's pretty material because they opted not to play in something, right?
Yeah, look, we opted. Milan.
They said, "No, we're good. We're going to sit over here."
We're going to sit over here for a little bit. We're
going to hang out.
I think that's. Sometimes you have to make the hard choice. Sometimes it's, look, we're going to sit this game out theoretically, let somebody win, and maybe that benefits us in this next game where it actually means a little bit more.
Okay, so here, numbers real quick.
Yep.
After this past weekend, Liverpool to win the Prem is now minus 150. Manchester City plus 130. Chelsea plus 8,000. Everybody else is plus 10,000 or more. 538 has Liverpool winning the Premier League at 56%. Manchester City at 41%. Chelsea at 2%.
8,000 to 1, huh?
For Chelsea, yeah.
Or plus 8,000.
Yep. Plus 8,000, baby.
All right. Well, I take my dollar bet on that one because I'll drop $1 on it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the one that pays off quite well for you. That's the juice box. You put the free-range, ethically treated aloe juice box, and you put on there, and it comes back fruit punch all day.
Yeah, that's about what it'll be. All right, I don't know if we've solved any of the Premier League's problems, but at least we put a spotlight on a few.
That's right.
There are other European situations we need to discuss. Serie A. Inter Milan was in a really good spot here. Inter looked like the team.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily look like the team. After Juventus, I think they made a statement.
No, Juve actually made a statement this weekend. The Hamburger's back. Gonzalo Higuain.
Oh, the Hamburger. He is scoring goals for fun these days.
He's scoring goals for fun. But look, it's because
He's found his joy.
He found his fillet of fish.
they put him on the McChicken sandwich as opposed to the Big Mac. They
Okay.
took away the special sauce from him, so I think he dropped.
They got him on the McChicken. Oh.
But look, I think
The McRib?
honestly, I think
No.
The
You're trying to
Are
have
you
him
a
lose
McRib
a
guy,
little bit
John?
here.
You're a McRib guy, aren't you?
Yeah, he's a McRib guy. He sees the McRib on the menu and he goes driving
The
straight.
phone's buzzing. It's like
Yeah,
With
McDonald's.
the pickles. With pickles.
With pickles. Oh my God, you terrify me sometimes, sir. I will say that I think what's happening is Maurizio Sarri is actually using Higuain as he needs to be used, which is coming off the bench. He comes in, and he's the super sub. You come in and score, and you're not out there languishing for most of the game. I don't have to burn a sub to get you out at the point in which you're useless. So I think that's what Maurizio Sarri's doing, and is working pretty well for Higuain. I think also what's happening is they're using Dybala. That's something where last year they were not, you say whatever you want, but Dybala was languishing, and now he's actually, you saw it in this game, he was utilizing his speed, he was breaking through that back line, he was putting that back line of Inter into tough positions, and Inter just wasn't fast enough to keep up, which I can't believe I'm saying that, but they just weren't. They didn't have the mobility in the back line to get things done. And so you had Higuain in a position where you had two defenders closing down on him, and he still was able to make a play. You had Ronaldo moving laterally across in front of the goal, and he was just dragging people with him, and they were all 2 steps behind. He put a ball off of the bar that, it should have gone in. Any other time, Juve should have won that game by more than what they did. And I think we all know I don't like Inter at all. I don't think this is the death knell for competition in Serie A like it has been previously.
Right, yeah, it definitely has been in the past.
Where if the first team, the number 2 team in the league, they lose to Inter, it's over, it's done, no matter what point it is in the season. I don't think that's the case.
Right.
I still feel that there's issues with the league. The league came charging in with an elbow. There's still stupidity that's taking place across that back line that I think Chiellini will solve when he returns.
The McRib will come back on the menu.
But I still think Serie A is going to be competitive. I'm not writing off the Serie A season just yet. But it was a statement game for Juve, no doubt.
Here's another question. So Milan, I thought they might join a club today that was started by Lyon and Orlando City in firing their manager.
Yep.
They didn't join it yet.
Not yet.
But it sounds like they could be joining that very soon.
They're on the way. Marco Giampaolo has been an absolute nightmare of a manager.
How bad?
How much of a nightmare was he?
I have been informed that I cannot use certain words on these airwaves.
Yes.
So I'll have
At
to
least
say...
while certain people are listening.
Exactly, yes.
Get creative.
Yeah, the Duchess is at home listening. Hi, Pumpkin, Daddy loves you. If Jackie Fresh is at home, Dad loves you too. And I will say this. You brought him in because in Serie A there's a legacy of managers who came up from the mid-table teams, were handed a big job, and made something of it. All right? I'm looking at Allegri, Sarri. I mean, it goes on and on. Eusebio De Francesco was supposed to be that guy at Roma. It fizzled out. But Giampaolo was supposed to be the next guy, the guy who could bring a dynamic style of play to Milan, make them entertaining, make them fun, and instead he came in, he changed out the lineup with absolute regularity. He got into a brawl with Paqueta, left Paqueta on the bench. Rafael Leao was left on the bench. He benched Benacer for one bad game, crippling the kid's confidence. So great, have fun with that. So the locker room's completely lost to him. And when you're changing formation every week, when you're changing lineups every week, and there's no consistency of play, that's a textbook definition of a manager who's in over his head. When you can provide zero continuity, zero, that's a manager who's in over his head. He's absolutely lost his marbles, and they have to fire him. Now the question is who do they bring in instead? There's Luciano Spalletti, the former Inter manager, who they're talking about bringing up. But here's the key. He's on payroll still with Inter. Which means they have to get Inter's blessing.
Right.
You have to get your Arsenal's blessing to get him. Good luck with that. And so your backup is Stefano Pioli?
Who?
The guy, Stefano Pioli, the guy who almost sent Fiorentina into relegation.
Oh, no.
That's your answer. That's who you're talking about bringing in.
Oh, our Scottish correspondent is not here.
And he's not.
But he's probably not here for a reason because of that.
Yeah.
Because he likes another team. And let's hear a little bit because I probably won't. He's gotten really quiet on our direct messages because usually he's all yelling about things. And I posted something about their loss this weekend, and he hasn't said a word.
Nothing.
I'm just wondering if he's okay.
One might say that it's crickets.
You could easily say that. So we're going to hear a little bit about Rangers. How long has it been since they've been top of the table? Wow, 2011. I was like, I didn't think it was that long.
Well, remember, they
goodness.
had administration which sent them.
No, I knew that, but still, 2011. Like, tell us a little bit about where Rangers is this season.
And no F-bombs.
Pleasantly discuss Rangers' fate
Amongst gentlemen.
without mentioning Craig White's name.
Okay, so they got off to a terrific start. They've done just about everything correct, other than the Old Firm game. They got beat, but in a way I always thought that's a blessing in disguise. Rather than irking the guy that's got all of the money, let's just keep under the radar at the moment. And we'll come through. Stevie G's doing a brilliant job, and now Celtic are potentially in a world of pain right now. Where do they go from here? Lennon's not doing it. Do they change him? That's a big risk. Do they go out and they blow money and try to pull it around in the back end of the season? That's not sure. I just believe that Neil Lennon is the wrong guy for the job. I know, and I won't say it here, I know the reasons why he was thrown out of Hibs. I saw him in action in Glasgow personally over the summer, being in places that he shouldn't have been. I think his eyes just off the ball.
All right. So maybe the pressure of managing Celtic may be catching up to him a bit.
No, I think he's complacent.
Complacency.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, hasn't been challenged, hasn't been.
They have a feeling of entitlement. There was a view within the Rangers support last year that as soon as their entitlement is in danger, they will go into meltdown. So now we'll see what the reaction is and how they deal with it. I believe that one of their players that was sent off yesterday is taking wicked abuse from their fans today. So maybe we are just seeing the embryonic signs of them just, what people were saying is they could fall off the cliff because they are being seriously challenged and they haven't had to deal with it for such a long time.
Well, it's something where they get punched in the mouth, and now we have to discover who you really are. Because it is that test. It is that test. When you get punched in the mouth, are you a team that's going to fold, or are you a team that's going to try to pull together some sort of inner strength and get a result?
But the problem that they've got is they hadn't been punched in the mouth for 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Not a strong likelihood of them being able to get up off the mat.
Well, we don't know. Just don't know if they've been they just haven't been tested.
Yeah.
Just to put this in perspective a little bit, Celtic could still finish second and even 1 point behind Rangers, and it's an abject failure by their standard.
Yeah.
There's no second place in the Scottish Prem. There's only first, and it's always Celtic or Rangers.
Yeah.
And hasn't been Rangers for a long time. So you here first, you're going to see Steven Gerrard win the league. It's a done deal.
What?
It's guaranteed. Guaranteed by the Brewhouse. It's done.
Well, it has the the Brewhouse, the guaranteed. The stamp has been carved. Guaranteed. Stevie G, he says Stevie G has issued it's done. Wow. That's strong. That's strong.
His entire career as a player, as a man,
As a man.
as a husband.
As a husband. As a father. He played with both.
He's laying all the DNA out on Stevie G. Here we go.
And then he will take over Liverpool after Jurgen Klopp eventually.
And that's where I was going with it. So now I know what Sakib's up to.
Now we got it.
So this is all setting up Stevie G to be the successor, no doubt, to Jurgen Klopp.
Oh yeah. Because that's what Klopp has
That's what
said.
he wants.
Klopp
Yes.
has said that he wants that he wants Gerrard to take over whenever that day is.
Yeah. Well, look, we talk about it. We talk about it all the time. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely, for sure. A contributor to the show. Yeah. So look, this is the thing. We talk about it all the time with other leagues, like Juve dominating Italy.
Yes.
We want to see competition.
Yes.
Spain,
Yes.
a couple clubs dominating. We want to see new blood.
New blood.
So in Scotland, we want to see a title race.
Yes, you do.
Because we haven't. And Celtic hasn't won in their last two. It's 2 games, but we're talking about this league that they have dominated
Correct.
for so long.
Oh, well, first of all, I need to do a health and wellness check on Jarrett. Let's find out.
Yeah, seriously, I'm a little concerned now.
Well, isn't he supposed to be on SDH tomorrow morning?
I haven't heard from him. I don't know.
I mean, he's about 7'8", because, so if he fell over, we would have heard it, I imagine.
That's
Anywhere
true.
from
If
Metro
Jared fell in
Atlanta.
the woods, would anybody hear it?
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's like Godzilla falling over. It's going to take a couple of buildings down with him.
Mecha Godzilla.
So I want to get into a couple other things from Europe before we get into the question of the day, because we have a question of the day, and I want Sakib to chime in on this too. So Barcelona has kind of regained their footing. They're in a good spot in Spain. They're in second behind Real Madrid, who's been great in the league. But I got to get into this match report from the weekend. So Barcelona won 4-0 over Sevilla. Big win. Dembele was sent off. All right, the report on Dembele's red card, this is from the referee, was that Dembele told the referee he was muy malo, eres muy malo. He's very bad.
Twice.
Didn't curse at him, just said he was very bad. And he gesticulated with his arm.
Oh, you can't gesticulate.
He was gesticulating.
Hold on.
do that.
Hold on.
And that was a red card.
Who said he did not use profanity?
The referee.
The
who
referee
sent
said
it
he
off.
did not use profanity.
Yes.
Gesticulated.
The referee quoted, this is not like, it's like saying in vague terms, it, quote, muy malo, eres muy malo.
Okay.
So he was told he was very bad. He doubled down.
Doubled down.
And he sent him off. Nope, you can't call me very bad and move your arms around wildly. You are red carded, sir.
Okay.
That's a little ridiculous.
No.
I think that's going to get overturned.
If you no, because look, there are some parents out there where if you say,
This is a La Liga match, sir.
"Mom, Dad, you're wrong and you're a moron,"
He didn't say it.
they're going to say, "Well, let's talk about your feelings."
He was as nice as
and let's-
possible. He said you're very bad.
And there are some moms who pull out
You're
like
grounded.
chancla and chase you around the house going upside your head.
He just said you're very bad.
I'm just saying, there's some parents out, some refs don't care and they deal with it. And there are some refs who say, "Look, if you say that mess to me one more time, I'm dropping a
That's
card."
like a baseball umpire who will let you pretty much say anything you want when you're challenging him. But if you get personal,
Yes.
then you get
No, that's the opposite. The baseball umpire like that is going to allow you to say you're very bad. He didn't call him a cheat. He didn't call him blind. He didn't
there
make
are
fun of him being
there are some
overwhelmed.
umpires that when if an umpire calls a strike and the batter turns around and looks you right in the eyes, the ump will throw you
Yeah,
out.
and those umps don't work very long
If you're
either.
Country Joe West,
Is it
Straight
straight red?
red. Straight red. Just silliness. Anyway, it's a small...
You're up 4-0.
It's a small footnote on a 4-0 win, but it struck me as funny to see that quoted in the report.
You have to send a
Very
message.
bad.
If you're an official, you have to send a
Yeah,
message.
he sent a message.
Your team is up 4-0.
He might not get any big games
Don't
anymore.
complain about anything in life.
He might not get any real matches.
There has to be. There has to be one.
I don't know. That's what the report said. He didn't say.
Yeah, because if you gesticulate the wrong way in Italy, it's going to make you,
All right.
I think the official may be actually protecting him because he may have
Maybe.
said something that's really offhand, and the ref said, "Look, I'm giving you a red card, and I'm going to do you a
I'm
favor."
not going to suspend you for a long time
Yeah.
because you said something really bad. Not just bad,
That's
really
all I'm saying.
bad.
That's all I'm saying.
Eres muy malo. All right, let's get into the question of the day. It came up this morning when Albert Ellis of the Houston Dynamo, an interview was translated into English after yesterday's match, Dynamo season over. Ellis was subject to transfer rumors before the season, wasn't sold by the Dynamo. He said, I'm going to play out my contract. I'm going to paraphrase. I'm going to play out my contract, and then I'm going to leave. And I really hope this doesn't cause me any problems next year, but this is what I'm going to do. Now, this is not uncommon anymore. It feels like a new trend. And who was it we were talking about recently? A club, it was Juve. Juve is very good at this. They might, instead of waiting for the player to say it, they will instead say, you know what? I know your contract's coming up. We would really like to sign you, but we are not going to pay a transfer for you. Why don't you just let that run on out and then come join us?
Yep.
But it's becoming a thing. Here's a list of players that are going to be out of contract after the current European season. Christian Eriksen, Jan Vertonghen, Toby Alderweireld, Nemanja Matic, Luka Modric, Edinson Cavani, Dries Martins, Willian, Mario Götze. Lots of players are doing this right now. Is this a bad thing for the game? I'm going to start with Saqib on this.
There you go.
I don't have a problem with it. I never have. A lot of fans do because they feel betrayed for whatever reason that you lost out on value. It particularly hurts when it's a young player. I'm a Liverpool supporter, so I'll use that. Emre Can. When he left, he was 24, more or less, getting ready to enter the prime of his career. Well liked in the club. He left on a free to Juventus. And a lot of supporters criticized him for doing that because they said the club deserves more. And I don't think so. I think, when did it ever become wrong to sign your name to something and honor that? Do exactly what you said you were going to do, live out your commitment, and then move on. I don't see a problem with it. It's refreshing. I like to see more of it. It is a shame when it's your club and your player leaves. Tottenham, I don't know how they're going to sleep at night.
Yeah.
But, they're losing their back line and Christian Eriksen and probably a lot more. But I don't have any problem with it. I never really have. I think it's the most honest thing left in sports, especially with all the big money and everything thrown around. I think it's personally refreshing.
Yeah, and I agree with you. If anything, you should be mad at the club for not protecting their business interest early on, and that's on the club. That's not on the player. It's not the player's job. It's not the player's agent's job to come up to the club and say, "Hey, by the way, my guy is contract up in the next couple of years. They either want to re-sign him or move him." That's not their job. If it allows that agent more opportunity to, one, collect an agent fee, a larger agent fee for signing a free, amen, good on him. But the player, the key thing here is the player fulfilled the contract they signed. Your team is moronic for not doing proper business. Houston should have been out in front of this a year ago and said, hey, do you want to stay with the club? Nah. It's okay if you don't. Nah, not really. Okay, how about this? How about we go through this season, see what we can get? And if we can move you, we will. But we guarantee you we will move you by X date. Can we work on that? Yep, we can work on that. Fantastic. You guys start making calls, we'll start putting out feelers as well. And if business is made, your club at least gets something. It's bad business from a club side, not a player side. I completely support the players in this.
I support the players, but there is also sometimes a benefit to the clubs. I'm looking at Tottenham right now, for example. They're going to lose Alderweireld and Vertonghen. These two guys they got one more big contract in them. Somebody's going to pay them. Could be China, could be a medium prem team, could be somewhere else on the continent. If Tottenham signs them, they have to sign them in big money.
Yep.
And maybe Tottenham doesn't want to commit that kind of money on an aging player who's seen the best of his days already. when they've got all these other expenses, they've got a stadium to pay for, they do have to revamp the team. It's a similar case with Eriksson, who is probably one of the most talented midfielders in the world. He's still in his 20s, 28, 29, something like that. He's got a big money contract. He's going to be on $300K a week somewhere. Does Tottenham think they want to sink that much money into Eriksson? It's a business discussion that needs to be made. So I think in the end they'll be able to find some other talent to replace Eriksson for their part for less money, a little bit younger, more upside. Because Eriksson's, the ceiling is there. He's at the peak of his powers right now.
Correct.
So do you want to pay him $300K plus a week or whatever it's going to be wherever he goes? Or do you want to let him go, wish him well, and re-roll the dice? And I think Tottenham is in a position that could be advantageous to them with all these players living on a free as well.
And I think part of it comes down to the, again, I believe all transfers going forward are going to be either listed as before Neymar or after Neymar, where we have that, it's almost an artificial cap. We know what teams will not spend now. We know that there's no limitless bucket of money because Neymar's not getting moved for $300 million. So comparatively speaking, where does player X rate with Neymar Prime? I mean, now that we know that, now that we know how much money is going to take and what the cap potentially is, it changes the entire dynamic of the transfer market. Where maybe you do say, we're not going to re-sign this guy and hope for a $150 million transfer. But instead, we maybe let the guy go, he goes on a free, and we just sign a younger talent and develop it because we have a history of that.
I think it's going to get harder for bigger clubs to do that as well. I mean, you look at Joao Felix for $100 million to Atletico Madrid. Yeah, everybody rated him as a young player, but I think that $100 million number shocked as many people as Neymar's 200 plus shocked everyone, because I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Right.
Until it happened one day, and they were like, wow.
And not from Atletico, Eddie.
Not from Atletico. But I mean, there's a whole domino effect from that for a lot of reasons. But Tottenham's is no longer in the shadows. They just played in the Champions League final. They've got probably one of the best football stadiums in the world. They can't hide from being a big club now. And being a big club means you got to spend a lot more money than everyone else. And they're about to learn that the hard way, I think.
You look at Houston, they waited too long. You look at Spurs, they've waited too long. They deserve their own fates at this point. It's disappointing that you have situations where you just, and I know that my eyes crossing doesn't translate to radio, but why do you let it get to this point?
If you're Houston, I think it's a larger issue with inside MLS, where you have maybe 2 or 3 teams that are savvy in the transfer market and know how they work, and then you have a bunch of other teams that are still going off of that old American idea of a contract, where we have player control for X period of time, we have a team option, we have this, and it's all about keeping the player in-house instead of viewing the player as an asset that you can move for more money and recoup some of that cash. And that, to me, is MLS 3.5, not 3.0, but 3.5, where more teams hire people who are transfer savvy and say, hey, sign this kid, transfer $8.5 million, we can sell him for potentially $25-30 million down the road. That's 3.5, 4.0.
I think it's interesting that players are doing this in larger numbers than we've ever seen. I wonder what the effect is going to be for the clubs. Are they going to be a little savvier, a little smarter, sell players earlier in a contract? Are they going to try to sign players to longer contracts? How are they going to react? Because there has to be a reaction. You know, we saw when free agency came in American sports leagues, okay, then teams started acting differently. So clubs are going to have to react to this. Tottenham is the one who has maybe been caught with their pants down the most, and they're going to be hurt the most by it.
Yep.
It's happened in MLS quite a bit. I think you're only now starting to see a few clubs who are smart and moving players at the right time. I think the Dynamo went into the season, and it sounded like there were offers on the table coming into this season. They were also in CONCACAF Champions League, and they didn't want to sacrifice their Champions League opportunity and move Ellis at that time. And maybe the dollar figures weren't enough either. But I think now that you've basically, the player has said, I want to play out the deal. I don't want to go now. I want to play next season in Houston and then go wherever I want to go. I said it this morning. I think if you're the club, you've got to go back to him and say, look, your agent can go negotiate wherever you want. We're not going to stand in the way of wherever you want to go, but we got to get a little something out of this. We kept you for another year to go Champions League. We're not going to Champions League next year. You can go find your deal, and we're just going to try to get something. If it's $500,000, if it's $750,000, whatever. We're going to try to get some kind of fee for our time.
Right.
And I think that's a fair situation to do if the club handles it correctly.
If I'm the Houston Dynamo, I go to his agent and I say essentially what you just said.
Go pick where you want to go.
But then I say, we're going to float a rumor out there that you're debating on re-signing with us.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't want you to, don't refute that, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
We'll do you solid.
Yeah, and we'll do you the solid in essentially greenlighting whatever transfer you get. We're not going to stand in the way of it, but just, yeah. I'm thinking about maybe Houston's a great town, whatever. I would love to continue my career.
With the MLS window, I think that's easy to actually pull off because you'd like to move him in a summer window. That's where you're probably going to make more money.
You will absolutely make more money.
So you need to have some kind of thing out there that either he signed a one-year extension or whatever, so you could move him in the summer and try to get something out of it. You need to figure that out because you don't want to see an asset walk for nothing. And that's what MLS teams have to be a little smarter about. We've got, I think we could keep digging into this. There's lots of other things we could talk about, but there's a couple Mondays with Reddit topics that we've got to touch on.
With Reddit.
There you go. Because one of them, I think Reddit has figured out what has happened with the Hamburglar. I think we know how the Hamburglar has lost weight. Because according to articles in Italy, Matthias de Ligt is the one who has put on the weight. And there are rumors.
The freshman 10.
Yes. There are rumors that De Ligt has been put on a low-carb diet by Maurizio Sarri because he is overweight.
All people
Yes. De Ligt says it doesn't surprise me anymore. Sometimes I think I had a decent game, but apparently there's something wrong after all because those are only opinions.
This is what happens when you're first here and you're new, and we're trying to teach lessons to delete and all this kind of stuff.
De Ligt got into the McRib stash of Higuain. Well, Higuain's lost weight, but De Ligt has put it on.
Oh, that's tremendous.
I go back to Kevin Prince Boateng when he was talking about why he went to play for Sassuolo, and he said, "You're not getting pasta like this anywhere else in the world." That was an actual quote, and it's true. In Italy, if you play well, you pay for no meals. They will treat you extraordinarily well. You have to put up with all the other obscene, vile crap. But in your own town, they typically treat you really well. It looks like that may be happening in Turin right now for our man De Ligt. And maybe Gonzalo, these guys are dumb. They read stuff. I don't know with social media. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You know there's people out there calling you the Hamburglar and,
See, if he were to only come out, if he came out on the pitch wearing the mask just once,
I would.
That should be the goal celebration.
I would walk off the show. Guys, I'm just letting you know, I would walk off the show. There would be nothing left for me on the show. If he came out with a Hamburglar mask on.
I actually hadn't heard that until today. And it's funny.
Yes.
I'm just saying,
Gonzalo Higuain is the Hamburglar.
The little mask. I mean, look, he's a guy. There are players who can eat what they want, and their career will go how it goes. But Cristiano Ronaldo, for all of his faults off the field, he should write a book on here's how you stay in great shape with proper diet and exercise.
you lock yourself in your house.
Yeah, and you and he doesn't throw dinner parties anymore because people won't show up because they're gonna get like plain chicken breast and like triple distilled spring water.
Not hanging out with Cristiano.
Yes,
his parties are lame.
Yeah, like what do you mean? There's no like fried food here? No, you're not getting any of that. You're not because you're hitting the gym for 3 hours. No.
You're going to hang out with Delict.
Yeah, we're going to go hang out with Delict. We're going
He's getting all the good pasta these days.
There's the all-you-can-eat pasta Nutella bars in Turin.
Oh, the Nutella bars. I knew that was coming.
That makes sense.
All right, here's another one from our friends with Reddit.
Mondays with Reddit.
Another recent one. Frustrated Tottenham players feel untrusted, overworked, underpaid, jealous of Daniel Levy's £6 million salary.
Yeah.
And annoyed at Mauricio Pochettino's, quote, up and down moods.
Up and down mood.
He's moody.
You're not winning.
I mean, hello? I wouldn't be very happy. Hello?
Why would you be happy if you're not? Okay. If I show
I'm
up
not winning, therefore.
Yeah, if I show up at work and I just sit there at my desk, boss comes by once. Hey man, you gonna do any work today? Nah, not really. Okay, boss walks off. Boss comes back by again. It's after lunch. Dude, have you done anything today? No, not really. Okay, so what am I paying you for? I'm here. I'm occupying a seat. You're going to find yourself probably out of a job pretty quickly. So if you're a defender and you're not doing a particularly good job of defending, or you're a midfielder or a forward and you're not pressing, should Pochettino be happy or sad? I don't know. Maybe I don't know a lot. Maybe if you don't follow a game plan, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be happy.
I'd like to say something about the Tottenham situation, so to speak. They are really good on paper. I mean, they've got one of the best center forwards in the world.
Yes.
They've got one of the best frontline players in the world in Son. He could do anything. He could do it all, right, left, whatever. They've got solid defenders. Really shame what happened to Hugo Lloris over the weekend. He's going to be out at least until January, they said, I think. But they have talent. They've spent money. They have a brand new stadium. The leaders on that team, and it's no longer going to be Alderweireld, Vertonghen, or Eriksson because they're gone. They're 1 foot out.
Right.
It's time for Harry Kane to step up and make Tottenham his team.
Yes.
It is time. And if he doesn't, everything they've worked so hard to build, they're at the tipping point. Are they going to go? Are they going to sink or swim? And I think Harry Kane needs to be the man to step up and say, strap up, boys, it's time to go.
It's time for a closed-door meeting where Harry Kane says, I need everyone else. If you're not going to be with the club next year, get out. So backline, entire defensive backline, just go get some lunch or whatever. Everybody else, the first person who tells me they're not ready to step up and play hard this weekend is getting punched in the mouth. Yep. I'm not talking about docking your salary. I'm going to punch you in the mouth.
Harry Kane wouldn't do it.
And then Harry Kane needs to get
who else could do it? Who else could do it on that team? I mean,
that's true.
Who else? It has to be Harry Kane. It's not fair, maybe, but he takes all the accolades. He makes the most money on the team, I think, or he will if he doesn't already. And he's the golden boy for everyone. Has to step up.
Look, we've seen this in the NFL a lot, where somebody other than the quarterback is the guy, and it doesn't. Not too often does it work out well, right? Once in a while, like you may have a Ray Lewis guy, right, who can grab a team and like drag them across the line. But remember when Elvis Gerbach was the quarterback of the Ravens?
Oh God!
And he was like, I mean, I'm taking him back.
A soft quarterback.
Yeah, and he just kind of stood there, like he wasn't even involved in like any of the huddles and anything. And the Ravens, even with that absurd defense, did nothing. Yep. In soccer, you have to have a leader, and I don't care who you are. And I think that's one of the things with Juve that's been a problem, is that Chiellini provided such leadership on the field, and when he's not there in the heat of the moment to rally those guys, problems start to happen. Harry Kane has to be that guy for Juve. For Spurs, because you have to. We sat here for 30 seconds, which is an eternity in radio, and tried to find someone else who could do it, and came up with no one.
I mean, what, Dele Alli?
Lucas Moore?
Sissoko? I'm 4 for 4.
I'm trying not to laugh into the mic.
I'm sitting here staring at the side. I'm literally looking at their roster. And for me, if it's not Harry Kane, it's not going to be Son, Lucas Moura, Dele Alli, Sissoko. and then you're just kind of sitting there going,
Danny Rose has had 1 foot out for 3 years. He's been wanting to go. It can't be,
And yeah, so I'm looking at a scant list of folks who are going to put their foot down on that roster and go, either you're with us or against us, and if you're against us, there's the door, don't let it hit you on the way out.
For the sake of discussion, maybe Hugo Lloris could be that person. Granted, he won't be on the pitch for a while, but he's just won the World Cup.
True.
He's supposed to be one of the best keepers in the world. And I think generally the team is led by either a goalkeeper, a striker, or if you have a, generational midfielder like Steven Gerrard or something like that leads the team from the center. But usually, goalkeepers set the line. They keep everyone in line. Atlanta United, Brad Guzan runs the show from the back, things like that. I think Lloris could be the guy to step up, if not Kane, but one of them have to. And the other thing about Tottenham, imagine this year went as good as possible for them. They were never going to win the league, just given the way Liverpool and City were trending. They were very fortunate. I don't want to be rude to Tottenham supporters, but it was a dream to get to the final last year, just like for Liverpool, it was a dream the year before that.
Correct.
It's not an insult. It's amazing. So best case scenario for Tottenham this year, they go deep in Champions League, they keep it a title race, and they keep everyone on their toes, and that would be a successful season for Tottenham following what happened last year. And even then, you probably would have lost Pochettino.
But this tells me that there is something stinks in that locker room. When you have players who are talking about, I'm not getting enough money, the manager's moody, I'm not getting there. This guy makes so much money, and I don't get any of it. Me. There is something toxic in that locker room, and I will point to Pochettino as the manager, and I think the fact that this is further proof that his message has gone stale. It's gone flat. That brotherhood, because when brotherhood's there, and it's all for one for all. We're going to get there, boys. We're going to go, and you fall short. All it takes is a couple of people to go, yeah, we did all that work, and we didn't get much to show for it. Yeah. We didn't win the Prem, we didn't win the Champions League.
I hate that for them because Tottenham had one of their most successful seasons ever last season, and to think of that as a failure
Pochettino build a team in an idea with what the resources were on hand. And what he did was tremendous to get it there.
That said, Pochettino's also kind of been 1 foot in, 1 foot out for the past couple of years. You hear his press conferences towards the end of every season talking about if they don't give me the money, then what am I doing here? And all these things he's said. And I just think that Pochettino is going to leave this summer one way or another.
I think he has to.
Best case scenario, worst case scenario. Even if he won the Champions League, he might have left last season. What else does he have to prove if he won the Champions League and beat Liverpool?
Right.
So the players need to realize that next season, it is only them. And if they don't take the steps to make this season count, next season is going to be worse because there's going to be a new manager. You're going to lose a lot of faces. There's going to be a lot of new faces. And they're in a very precarious situation right now.
I'll tell you another thing that's leaving, guys. These scarves.
Oh, no doubt.
These scarves are starting to leave right now. We've had a couple that have been handed out. They're going. So if you want to be able to get up here in time to get your Holding Midfield Appreciation Society scarf here at the Brewhouse, this is the time because the scarves are leaving. Just like Pochettino's are going to be leaving Spurs.
The scarves haven't had 1 foot out the door, though.
Well, let me ask you, Appreciation Society, who do you think are the best holding?
Okay, so who is your most appreciated holding midfielder?
Fabinho, next question.
Okay. Nick?
No, I'm going yes.
It can be forever. It doesn't have to be current. It can be lifetime. All right, he's got to think. Sakib's got to think about lifetime. Steven Gerrard, 13-14, when he was playing in the holding midfield role.
Pirlo. I think it's got to be Pirlo, right?
Pirlo would definitely be in my list. I appreciate Andrea Pirlo for sure. Yeah.
When he was in his prime.
Yeah.
When he was the metronome.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing. You have different types of holding midfielders. I love a Pirlo. I love a Gattuso. They're both holding midfielders.
One's the bruising type, one's the more creative
Yeah, it depends on your team. I mean, Roy Keane's one of the greatest holding midfielders of all time.
Okay.
Roy Keane would break your leg just for fun.
Yeah, see, now this Kevin Egan came up to us this past weekend and wants to do an entire show on the holding midfielder.
Yeah.
When the season's over, he wants to do an entire show on it.
Done.
Yeah, that was great. Can't wait. We need to get him here to do it.
That could probably be arranged. I'm sure there are some pints that could be exchanged.
Yes.
This could happen.
Jason, you know some people up in Atlanta United, right?
Allegedly.
Allegedly, might be able to make that happen.
It's very possible.
You tell them it's on. But look, I think we have to go I have to go all time here because Pirlo to me is someone who, when he was present on the field in his prime, you couldn't shake him, you couldn't scare him. There was no moment in the world that was too big for him, and he would find you with the most simple passes. I go back to the Germany game in the 2006 World Cup when he's cutting across the 18. And he sees Fabio Grosso. Nobody else saw Fabio Grosso, but he saw him, and Grosso slotted that shot in to get the first goal on the board. To me, the vision of Pirlo in that moment, and his ability, the entire German defense was crashing on him. And he didn't make a panic move. He didn't just rifle a ball at the net. No. Oh, there's Grosso right there. Drop, score. To me, that is... When I ask for a holding midfielder, I want a guy who's unflappable. When the ball is at your feet, everybody just goes, okay, he's got it. Okay, he's okay for a moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Darlington Nagbe is one of the best right now.
Darlington Nagbe, yes.
Nagbe, and he does it differently. He's not hitting that long ball.
Correct.
But he has such a change of pace. He's able to draw the defender in, take a step, and he's past you, and you're like, where'd he go? What happened? Like, he's just so smooth on the field.
Speaking of Darlington Nagbe, this is super high praise. I might get flamed for it, but he's like N'Golo Kante light for me. I mean, and Kante's now proving he can play in a more forward position, which is you have dreams about N'Golo Kante. He's an amazing midfielder. Here's one of the most unloved, underrated, although it makes total sense, Sergio Busquets.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of underrates him because there's so much magic going around Barcelona in the Messi show and everything at any time, but Busquets is still there, still in the midfield. He's been holding it down for more than a decade, it seems, and he's been a central focal point of every one of their historic teams that they put together in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, that's a great call out right there, because that's something there are some guys that you're like, wow, that guy's really good, and they go from like a super club down to like a mid-level club, and then they may go to a different country where the quality of play is not that much. You're talking about a guy who's held that position at like the super club for like over a decade. That's sustainability. That is the peak definition of sustainability.
And he's complemented Xavi and Iniesta for so long because he's different. I mean, he can play that game, but he can also get stuck into a tackle. He can also do other things to let them go do what they do best. That's the thing about the holding midfield is you can approach it in a variety of different ways and be effective. There's not one way to play it. That's what's cool about it, is you like to see different personalities in there.
I think that this is where you start discovering who's fans of what league.
Yeah.
From what they ask of their holding midfielders. Gattuso's a guy who you could. To me, he was a bit of he was a blunt instrument, and so I as much love as I have for Gattuso, he's not in my holding midfielders.
I like to, if I'm going to have a Gattuso, I got to have somebody next to him that can partner with him.
Right.
That's the thing. And Roy Keane was more of a complete player than a Gattuso, but you still wanted somebody with him to let Keane do what he does best. Get into a tackle, intimidate, be a little nasty.
For me, just so Doug can listen to this later and cringe, Michael Bradley.
No, I'm going to have to deal with it.
I will say this, though.
Very unappreciated, I think.
No doubt. And I think I think he's very polarizing.
He shouldn't be.
No.
But and that's the thing. Why is he polarizing? Because he was part of a team that failed?
Right.
Yes.
He didn't necessarily.
No, but
fail.
it's guilt by association.
Well, why isn't anybody else getting the guilt by association?
Shiny object.
They are. We boo them every time they come to
No,
Mercedes-Benz.
it's Bradley and Altidore get booed.
Yes.
Nobody else does.
And?
But that's the thing, is the rest of the team getting booed. Why is it all on
The
association?
team are getting booed. Oh, okay. We're booing the leaders. So we're booing the guys who were leaders and vocal leaders on that team.
It was also 2 years ago at this point.
I'm still booing them. Anytime they come into the arena, I'm booing them out the building. 233 row 1, seats 1, 2, 3.
Boo them for being Toronto FC. Don't boo them for being USM&T.
Why? No, I'm booing for both.
Petty. Petty.
I'm King Petty.
Okay.
I'm King Petty.
I just wanted to make sure you embraced
He's
it.
the king.
Just wanted to make sure you embraced it.
I embrace anything petty.
Anything heel, Nick embraces, without question.
I embrace the petty. Bring the petty to me.
I got to stay on brand here for just a second. Carrying on the holding midfielder discussion, I think the modern prototypical guy right now is Fabinho. I know it's biased coming from me, but I mean, the guy does everything. He can pick a pass out from anywhere on the pitch. He can, put the deft balls in just over the top. He can pick a deep ball, and he's got legs for days. My goodness. I mean, the guy is phenomenal. He can, use his spaghetti legs to get anywhere, pick a ball from anyone, pick their pockets anywhere on the pitch. He's got the hustle. He's got the physicality. He's tall. I mean, I think that's the future of the holding midfield. The people are looking at players like that and saying, we need one of them in our squad.
Boo Michael Bradley. Boo!
Both of y'all, no.
I am full on Dave Chappelle as Rick James with muddy feet, putting them all on Michael Bradley's couch.
There were so many
Blake,
bigger
your
issues.
couch! Blake, your couch!
Yeah, if Tim Howard could make a save on a shot from 35 yards out, then we're having a different conversation. Yeah. If Bruce Arena hadn't picked the same one, why wasn't Bruce Arena booed out of the building? If we want to get into this,
I
don't think Steve Craig announced Bruce Arena.
No, he's announced. They announce it.
I have a confessional moment here. I was less than 2.5 feet away from Bruce Arena, and I honestly debated booing him.
If you're going to be King Petty and boo Michael Bradley, the biggest issue with that was playing the same lineup that played 3 days before in a game where Trinidad's going to play direct, and you play Bradley by himself in a diamond when you need to win the second ball. Correct. That was what cost the U.S. the World Cup.
He should be booed as well. And
then boo him.
You're right.
Well, you didn't. You failed.
I failed because I was representing another company at the time, and it was a professional setting.
It's a cop-out, Nick.
Professional setting.
It's a cop-out. That's a big cop-out.
I reduced my King Petty to Duke Petty.
There we go. Okay. Maybe you can regain it.
Selective kingness?
Yeah.
You've got a postseason match coming up. Maybe you can regain it.
The Duke of Petty.
I need to hear loud booing coming from the section underneath the radio booth when Bruce Arena's name is mentioned.
You will see me booing him out of the building.
Okay, that's all I need to see. We got to get into a rumor from Mondays with Reddit. Mondays with Reddit. So Orlando City needs a manager. James O'Connor was shown the door today.
Oh, that rumor?
No, not that rumor. The rumor about who could be coming in.
Yeah, that rumor.
Yes. It's funny that we mentioned Rangers earlier because this man was at Rangers at one point. Pedro Caixinha has been linked to the Orlando City job. Here's what I'm going to read to you from his Wikipedia page about his time at Rangers.
Because that is the bastion of everything journalism.
It is, but it's very important here because this is an interesting Portuguese manager, didn't really have a playing career, started managing at 28, was an assistant at clubs like Sporting, Panathinaikos, Rapid Bucharesti in Romania, with the Saudi Arabian national team. I mean, talk about a vagabond.
Frequent flyer miles.
Then he goes into management with a couple small Portuguese clubs. Then he goes to Santos Laguna in Mexico. Okay.
Because why not?
He got to a CONCACAF Champions League final. Then he goes to Al Gharafa. Then he goes to Rangers. So Portuguese manager who's worked in Mexico and Saudi Arabia. He goes to Scotland. All right? Sure. He is their 17th manager. They signed him to a 3-year deal. He lasted 229 days.
Yeah.
So he's not Matias Almeida.
Yeah.
Not Frank de Boer.
BBC Scotland's Tom English described Caixinha's reign at Rangers as, quote, a desperate mess from start to finish.
So he's on brand.
Yes. And he went to Cruz Azul and had success with Cruz Azul until he was let go. And now he might go to Orlando City.
Okay, so
Your head's spinning a little bit
I
on
think
that
you
one.
stunned Nick with all that information.
I mean, look, if you want a guy,
Desperate mess from start to finish.
okay, so obviously they want a guy who speaks Portuguese. That's fine. I can buy that. I understand. There are Portuguese-speaking managers out there who are significantly better than this guy. Okay, can you call Villas-Boas up?
Huh?
I mean,
Is he still in China?
I don't know, but
Efforting.
yeah, I mean, can we call that guy up? Can we? I mean, it's not, but
No.
it's not the most attractive job. But there are a few positions where if you're a holding midfielder, and I'm saying I need you to come to my team. Okay, let me do some research on this team. Okay, you guys are an absolute nuclear disaster zone. Why? Why should you bring me in? No, I'm not going to play there. I'm not wasting my few remaining years to come to Orlando City. But a manager, if you get a manager in and you pitch it, look, this team is a mess, and I need you and your guidance and wisdom to turn this team around and make us a winner. And if you do this, if you get us to the playoffs, if you get us the Eastern Conference, we will build a statue for you outside of this stadium. There are a lot of managers who will take that job. And to sit there and say that this guy is at the top of your wish list, this guy, it's not someone who had a couple of bad stints at teams, Frank de Boer, who also, oh, by the way, won the Eredivisie, which is no slouch league, like what, 4 times in a row?
Yeah, it's a little different.
There's that dramatic difference. It's not like Matias Almeida, right? Matias Almeida, who's had success elsewhere. It's not the same thing. You're getting a guy who's a vagabond coming in here to say, you're going to fix this mess? You need a name. And I know not...
He's been nowhere for more than 2 years.
There you go. So that's exactly the person who I want to bring strength and stability to my
And
club.
to answer
He
your
won in
question,
Mexico.
Yes, and to answer your question, Luis Andre de Pina Cabral e Villas-Boas is at Marseille.
Oh, that's right. In France. He was in China before that.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
But Jason, I like the conversation that we had this morning about Diego Alonso.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy who just had recent success at Monterrey. Like, that would be my first call. But if you're looking at a manager who speaks Portuguese, the ownership is Brazilian. There's lots of different options you could go with other than Caixinha.
You're just telling me you have
don't
no
get it.
ambition. You're just telling me you have no ambition. That all you have right now, you're just shooting. You have no soccer knowledge, 1, and 2, you have no vision.
I don't necessarily want to say that because, I mean, he won 1 league title with Santos Laguna. He won 2 cup titles, 1 with Santos and 1 with Cruz Azul. He won a Campeón de Campeones match with Santos Laguna. He won a Super Copa with Cruz Azul. So he's got a league title to his name. He's done something in Mexico, which is a measuring stick for MLS. I'm just looking at it more of the place he managed the longest was Santos Laguna, where he managed 121 matches. Next is Cruz Azul, 71. Then you're talking about his time at Al Gharafa, 39. Like, he just bounces around.
Yeah.
You need stability.
Okay, so what about Luis Felipe Scolari?
Yeah.
He's unemployed.
He's worth the money.
He's worth the money.
And you bring in somebody young with him to groom to take over. That's where I would go.
You're talking about a guy who's had success with Brazil, a guy who managed at Chelsea. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and let's go over some of the names of the teams that he's coached because.
He's done a few things.
Yeah. Gremio, Palmeiras, Portugal, Chelsea. Oh, those are some names. Gremio again. What is this? Oh, he managed in Saudi Arabia for a while, so he knows what it is to be to manage. It's not like this guy's going to sit there and say, no, Orlando is too small of a team for me. No, I mean, come on. Pay the man the money, get him in there and say, rebuild our club.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's vision. Orlando, call me. I'm not going to work for you because I can't wear purple. That's not really my color, but I'll help you out.
I think that's probably the best answer that we're going to get. But in alternative, something fun, you said they needed a name. There has to be a name. Give one of these players, well-known players that are now getting into coaching, Henri, Vieira, anyone on that level. You bring one of them in, they know the game. They know the modern game. Mm-hmm. You bring one of those guys in, Rooney maybe if he's there. Obviously, Gerrard and Lamps are off to bigger things for the moment, but you bring someone in like that. I can't pinpoint anyone at the moment, but they're out there. There's tons of them. That could be huge. I mean, it could be a huge boost to Orlando, the fans,
right.
A statement, something like that could be good.
I think that's what you're going to need, though, because you have to start somewhere, and ownership clearly doesn't have much of a clue.
No.
So you need to get a strong football guy in.
They need a bit of flash, too.
Yeah, you need a name. Somebody who can come in and almost Nick Saban style, put the rings on and be like, this is what you're buying.
Yeah.
And was it Charlie Weiss used to do that? Charlie Weiss,
that sounds like Charlie Weiss.
Yeah, he would walk into his interview and he would open up his Super Bowl rings and be like, this is what you're paying for. And then you get zero on return.
Wow. Yeah, there's that. That goes only so far.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. Because I know a lot of people here don't spend a lot of time in Orlando City Twitter. But
it's not a good place to spend time.
It's not, but even some of their most devoted fans are posting videos saying, this is it. We're done dumping the money.
You're not worth our time and money.
Yeah, and for they are probably one of the most toxic groups in MLS fandom.
It's not even close.
Without question, they love that team.
Absolutely.
Do I wish that they would interact differently with the rest of the league?
Of the planet?
The planet, yes. But you're in Central Florida, so I can't really put that much on you. So you gotta do something for this fan base. You gotta give them something to believe in, a reason to spend more money on the season tickets. Because otherwise, move the club. And I've said it, and I'm still of the opinion. 3 years and that team's gone. It's unsustainable. It's unsustainable with zero direction. 3 years, that team's gone. If they make this move, ownership's telling you they don't care.
I don't know.
Look, I get it. I understand that MLS, though, has proven they are willing to move teams. Columbus had a stadium. They had a wonderful soccer-specific stadium. Yes, it was farther out of town.
Yeah, and it's a high school stadium.
But they were willing to move it.
Yeah, because the owner wanted to.
FC Dallas, high school football teams play on that field as well.
And our internet doesn't work half the time, so that's another big point in that one.
Issue.
But the thing is, though, is that there are teams and stadium situations out there that have been pitched for moving. We almost moved Columbus, right? They folded Miami. They folded Tampa.
Different time.
It was a different time.
Yeah, very different.
But still,
somebody would have to come in and buy it. I don't think it's the league saying we're going to move it out of Orlando. It would be somebody coming in to say, I want to buy this team.
Do you think Tepper would buy it and move it to Charlotte?
Yeah. That's a different conversation. But yes, I think so.
I think it's the same conversation because I think it's the league has to sign off on it. The league has to sign off on the move. Sure. So the owner
has to sell.
And the owner has said that they're only going to own this team for a certain long before they go into philanthropy.
They did say to keep it in Central Florida, though.
Yeah.
That's what they said. Well, now, I know that can change.
Contracts are a wonderful thing.
Yeah, no, it can change.
And there are lots of little loopholes. So, yes, we have a mailbox in Orlando where our team headquarters is. and we moved the team, the players, and all the equipment to Charlotte.
Look at this guy.
He's got the Mayflower movement.
He just went totally like Baltimore Colts on it.
I'm telling you, get me in the business, baby. Let's go.
I know a lot of Atlanta United supporters are probably a little bit giddy with this discussion because it seems like we're reveling in the potential demise of Orlando, our arch rival, if you could consider them that. But they're like the Joker to our Batman, or vice versa. We need Orlando. They complete us.
They complete us. I don't revel in Orlando's, because I honestly thought when Orlando first came into the league and they brought in Ricky Kaká, I was like, wow, this is gonna. They are doing something special down there. And look, Ricky Kaká was no bum, but when it started falling apart, and
After year one?
Yeah, after year one. And it was panic move after panic move after panic move.
Adrian Heath's 3-year plans worked in Minnesota.
Yeah, strange how that played.
And Orlando City Twitter constantly references this.
Yeah.
I don't revel in Orlando because I honestly thought they would be better than this. I honestly expected them to be a legitimate rival, not just neighbors who were like villains.
And how many times has Orlando City beaten Atlanta United?
0.
Right. That would be the case, yes.
But there are teams out there that are better rivals, Red Bulls,
Yeah.
but I don't want any team in this league to fail. I want the teams to have some measure of success.
I want them to have good homes where they can flourish and succeed. That's what I want.
And I think they have that, but they've put a awful product on the field for 5 years now, and fans are saying, look, we're done. We had enough. That's the issue. And it's as simple as that. The stadium's great. For an Atlanta United match in there with a big crowd, it is a blast to be in that stadium. It has a different edge than most venues in the league. That's a good thing. They have, there's a feeling in that building that is unique to Orlando. Now, maybe it's because it gets a little toxic, and maybe we're being called horrible things by people with tucked-in polo shirts and their khaki shorts, but it happens. But that adds to the atmosphere, and it's one of the places that I look forward to going to and calling a game from because it feels bigger.
I honestly think that's a team that if they made the playoffs one time, I honestly believe that team, the fan base, the toxicity would drop. Because I don't
know about that.
I honestly do. Because
It would just be redirected.
They have nothing else to do except be toxic. They have nothing else. Because the dynamic would change. Even between Atlanta fans and Orlando fans, I think the dynamic changed because as much grief as we give Red Bulls, there's still that sort of knowledge in the back of our heads. This team can beat us.
Right.
And with Orlando, that's not there.
Now it's turned into the fear of they're going to beat us at some point. I hope it's not this time.
Right.
And that's different.
But I want the team to succeed. I would love, though, if somebody came in and bought them and moved them. I just think it's done. It's time.
It could happen. I don't think it does. I think they get it figured out.
3 years.
Nah,
Now
I
we're
think
down
they
to
figure it
2.
out. All right, we're wrapping up soccer over there, and it is an international break, so we do have to at least mention that there are games happening.
There are games happening?
There's things, and you can watch all of them at the Brewhouse Cafe.
Excellent, there you go.
Except for maybe the Thursday 8 a.m. game with Brazil and Senegal and
Breakfast
Singapore.
at the Brewhouse.
I don't think it's going to be a crowd for that one. Sunday at 8 a.m. Brazil and Nigeria in Singapore. Maybe that one's a possibility. There's a couple that are, worth the time. Germany and Argentina on Wednesday, 2:45. Yeah, it's a little intriguing. I can take some time for that one. Argentina, no Messi, no Angel Di Maria, no Sergio Aguero, no Mauro Icardi, no River, no Boca players. Man, y'all suck. Okay. Iceland and France in Euro 2020 qualifying Friday, 2:45. Oh. Everybody likes Iceland. Everybody gets excited about Iceland, even though they bore you to tears with the way they play.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's a clap, yay, it's exciting. We're going to hoof the ball long now.
It's the team that DC United can identify with, so the fans got to latch on.
Czech Republic and England on Friday, 2:45. USA Cuba Friday at 7 o'clock. I know Nick will be watching that.
On board.
Bermuda hosting Mexico Friday at 9. I just kind of want to see the spectacle of this.
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be on a cricket ground, I'm assuming.
Oh, sweet.
Because I don't think Bermuda has like a soccer-specific stadium. It's got to be like on a cricket oval or a rugby oval or something. It's Bermuda. I mean, it's going to be pretty cool. I'd make the trip. If it was the U.S. and Bermuda in CONCACAF Nations League, I'd go to that trip. That'd be amazing. I want a Bermuda team to make it in CONCACAF Champions League. I want to make that trip.
Can I get a dual citizenship with Bermuda? Can I make that happen?
They're still part of the empire.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay, Bermuda National Sports Center is a multi-purpose sports complex in Devonshire Parish, just to the east of the capital.
What sports?
So, efforting.
What happens there?
Bermuda, call me. I can get on the treadmill today.
Yep. So it is at the National Stadium.
I mean, I guess an EU passport would work.
Football matches, the stadium holds 8,500, used by the Bermuda Hogs of the USL Second Division.
I don't think they exist anymore.
So it is a cricket ground, it is a football ground, so it is multi-purpose, and it seats 8,500 for football.
All right. Colombia and Chile, Saturday at noon. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I might peek in on that one.
a good one to watch.
And there's a couple Monday before we're back for soccer over there. Bulgaria and England. In Bulgaria.
England.
Ukraine and Portugal.
Ooh. That could be interesting.
Yeah, that could be very, very interesting. The big one, though, is next week, and we'll talk about it on the next show. Canada hosting the United States in a CONCACAF Nations League match next Tuesday at 7:30. It's the first competitive match between the U.S. and Canada in Canada since 1997.
Ooh.
I think it's going to be spicy.
Yes, I agree.
I'm really looking forward to that one in Toronto.
Yeah, look, I'm going to be the negative Nelly here if I could for a moment.
Shock.
I am just waiting for Canada to win 1-0
That could happen.
and watch 3GB.
Waston on a set piece?
It could be.
Waston is Costa Rican, sir. He's
Who's
not pulling that one up.
going to be putting the ball in for Canada then?
Alphonso Davies,
Okay.
there you go.
Yeah, so they have talent.
Jonathan David,
Yeah. Now,
Will Johnson,
Osorio. Screaming Will Johnson?
Yes.
Will Johnson.
He's a
Hey,
Canadian international.
That guy's a bum.
He's going to score the goal.
He's a bum.
See, that's the setup, because you're saying he's a bum. Screaming Will Johnson's going to score it on a set piece.
But Canada's going to win 1-0, and I can't wait to watch the 3GB meltdown, where one week he says, guys, be calm. It's about we're developing.
But we're not developing.
We're developing.
We're not here to develop, but we're developing.
We're not here to develop.
Okay, we're going to finish with, it's not quite breaking news, but breaking rumor, at least, out of Globo Esporte in Brazil, which they're maybe batting about 57% on the things that they publish.
That's not bad.
The first ever 24-team Club World Cup is set to happen in the summer of 2021.
Okay.
The tournament will be held in China.
Of course.
Previous reports have the following continental representation: 8 clubs from Europe, 6 from South America, 3 from Africa, 3 from Asia, 1 from Oceania, 3 from CONCACAF. In a 24-team Club World Cup in the summer of 2021.
Okay.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by that.
I would like to take a break in the MLS season and qualify via CONCACAF to get to the Club World Cup in China in 2021.
I think I'm on board with this. I think we need to make this happen.
I would like to see this happen. If that's the case, that makes a lot of things very interesting over the next year or two.
But this is what we've been talking about, where you put an MLS team on the same field as Real Madrid.
Yeah, not in one game, but in a World Cup setting where you got to play 3 group games.
That's right. So if you could play Real Madrid, if you can play Spurs, if you can play, Spurs won't be there. But if you,
that was just a low blow. Portmore, just mean.
Gotta get it in.
United.
If you can make that happen, and you just get a point. If you're Atlanta United gets a point,
How wild would that be?
off of one of these big clubs.
Joseph Martinez scores a goal.
But then you'd have to sit there. A, you'd have to be credentialed. B, then you and Mike would be calling matches in said Club World Cup.
Yes.
In that country.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm petitioning for this to go down.
Why do you think I said this needs to happen? Why do you think I'm so excited about this?
Well, you need an entourage.
Of course.
You need an entourage of people.
No, like I said, we just get credentialed and we go and cover it independently.
Yeah.
And so we're doing shows from China.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. I think Dr. Wifey can be okay with that.
So summer of 2021, so we need a good CONCACAF Champions League in 20, and I'm assuming like CONCACAF Champions League in, well, I don't know how they're going to qualify for it. Maybe the 2021 CONCACAF Champions League gets in, so.
The two teams that play in the final and a third or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So, all right, we got some work to do.
Okay.
Preparation is underway for this, according to Globo Esporte, which about 57% of it's true.
I'll take those odds.
It's possible.
I'll take 4 out of 7.
Let's go, baby.
All right, that's going to wrap it for soccer over there from the Brewhouse Cafe. It's an international break. There are lots of games in lots of different places around the world, lots of Euro qualifying, CONCACAF Nations League. You can watch all of it up here at the Brewhouse Cafe on one of the 9 billion TVs.
Yes, and we're right in the middle of all
They
that.
are everywhere. It's a great spot to watch other action as well, college football, NFL, the Braves in the postseason, all kinds of things. The new patio is awesome. The new menu is awesome. I'm about to have some dinner right now because it is that freaking good.
Yeah.
We'll be back next Monday for soccer over there from the Brewhouse. Come join us. The scarves are going fast. Get your scarf. We're moving quickly. $20. It's not too much.
Plus shipping if you need them shipped.
That's reasonable. That's value.
Very reasonable.
That's value.
We try to pass the savings on to our customers.
Because they're the best.
Yes. Thank you all for listening. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha, euro, y'all.
All the lira.